client who suddenly, he's had controlled blood pressure for years. Suddenly his blood pressure is high and he's feeling dizzy. So my thought was like he's maybe taking too much medication and it's gotten too low, but it tends to be high. So he went to his naturopath and he said that he had problems with his adrenals. And when I scanned him, he did seem to have a problem with his adrenals. So I have a question. On your workbook here, you've got adrenal stimulants and you have adrenal tonics. And I was wondering what's the difference
for calming down and sedating the adrenals, you could do a couple of different things. And with this particular issue, I like to do like 2 things here, right? And potentially even 3, but let's talk it out a little bit. So for first part is blood pressure can be like pretty complex. Like you know, it's not an easy thing where you can go, oh, this treats this and can lower the blood pressure. There's potentials, right? Because even when you look at like pharmaceuticals, there's lots of different kinds of medication to address high blood pressure. So it's never like a straightforward, like this does that. You know, you're having to look at like the functional component. And so, you know, here, like you said, the adrenals are a bit overactivated.
No, I'm sorry. I must have misspoken. They're actually depleted.
Oh, depleted.
Yeah. But you know, when I was looking at your notes, you have an adrenal stimulant, which I would assume would be a good thing. And then you've got a tonic, and I wasn't sure when you would use either of those.
Let me just tap into this guy for a second. Okay. So depleted. How old's this person?
He's in his mid-70s.
Okay. And he's under a lot of stress or not under?
No, actually he's not. He's retired, and I asked they're friends of ours. I asked his wife, is he under stress? And she says, not at all. You know, it's probably the least stressful part of his life.
So
yeah, it's puzzling.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with blood pressure is like your body sometimes does these little trades, like, you know, well, let's trade this in this system and that system to make the body balanced again. You know, they're just trying to maintain a homeostasis. And one of the first things on the trading block is blood pressure, be it up or down. And so, I mean, it could be a reflection of something else, that he's not under a ton of stress. But the thing is, did he have like a stressful work life prior to this, or?
Yeah, but he's probably been retired for 15 years.
Okay, that's quite a long time. And are we aware, how is he sleeping?
I didn't ask that.
I'd be curious about that, but let's just move forward even with what we know. So and let me pull up the thing that we're talking about as well, the adrenal.
It's on page 8 of your health conditions workbook.
Adrenal. Okay, so let's do it like this. We have some choices, and like when I say it like that, like you might have to explore this a little bit. We can look at this a couple of different ways. And so, I mean, I think it's a good conversation to have, because blood pressure, I mean, it's a very common health ailment.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said, it's complex, but for this individual, let's look at it from 2 points of view that kind of overlap. But so one, one path of action could be just using a significant amount of sage on the body, like not the claries, but like regular sage, Spanish sage, Dalmatian sage, something of that vein, just like your good old fashioned straight up sage.
Mhm.
And you could put it in a liniment or like sesame oil, and having just like apply it to his body, to his torso, to his like, at night or whatever. Sometimes what can happen is there can be a little bit of sensory overstimulation of basically the sensory nerves get a little overstimulated, and that's usually the byproduct of lymphatic stagnation. And we think of the lymphatic system as detoxifying, and we think of it as part of the immune response and things like that. But the lymphatic system is also part of the cardiovascular system. It picks up like leftover fluid and excessive fluid that are dropped in the tissue, and helps like pick it up and then flush it out. And so it helps to regulate blood volume and things like this. And so there's a good chance that he's got some lymphatic stagnation in the body. And so let's look at it from this point of view first. So the sage will help to like kind of strengthen and fortify the adrenals, and it will calm down the sensory nerves, right? And it's going to need to be more than just inhaled. Like it's going to have to get on the body, right? And so after a few treatments of rubbing it all over his body, after a while, he could just be putting, 4 or 5 drops on the wrist a couple of times a day, and that would be enough. But for a while, I would like to see just like cover the body, like a liniment that's alcohol, witch hazel, any combination thereof. And then with that, anything that would help move the lymph, you could use blends, you could use single oils, but it could be helichrysum, it could be cedar, it could be the lymphatic blend, it could be chocolate root cleanser, the pepper, like any forms of pepper would work. Any of the lymphatic, oriented treatments just to help things move, right? I kind of like that for him. And if there's any sort of brain fatigue, which is associated with the sensory nerves being overstimulated and the lymphatic congestion, I mean, usually the byproduct is some brain fatigue, so like faculties are slowing down, it's taking longer for him to like recall things with his memory, things like that. That's just kind of like toxicity in the brain. It's just the blood in the brain. And so if you clean that up, a lot of times that just comes back. And so I don't know if he's having that issue, but if the sensory nerves are overstimulated, at some point it happens. And so that would help calm that down. And it would also increase and improve energy levels, because a lot of times adrenals can get overactivated or depleted when the body is tired, like when it's fatigued, so at some point, you go through and you start supporting things that make the body stronger. But here, the sage might do it. Like you might not need to add other components. You might just like sage and some lymphatic treatment, and we even call it good.
So
Now,
how long should he do this? I mean,
I would have him put the body tonic on every day for probably 4 or 5 days. And then after that, like on the wrist for a few days. And like within 2 weeks, if the blood pressure is not starting to drop significantly, then I'd start looking at alternative treatments. Like set that one aside and like, okay, we got to go down another rabbit hole.
okay.
That one won't hurt. So even if he continued, but you want to see the blood pressure get regulated as quickly as possible.
Mhm.
And so, because they're probably up in his meds or wanting to start to put him on a different med or something.
Yeah.
And so the other choice is I've done this for a few people where we put spikenard on their feet, like, just neat, like you just start dropping 6-8 drops on each foot, you rub it all in, do 6-8 drops on another one and rub it all in. Usually do that at night. It's very calming and soothing to the body. It's very relaxing to the body. It's fortifying because you're also helping to deepen the sleep. I also like to use something during the day that has a little bit of a sedative effect on the central nervous system, which can be like your Pettigrins. That could be clary sage, neroli, kava kava is the thing that I use primarily for that. That he could just inhale or take a few drops in water. If he doesn't want to do the few drops in water, just inhaling will be enough. Like at night, just keep taking long, slow, deep breaths until he feels sleepy. That just even doing that dosage once a day would probably be enough. Sometimes what happens is the nervous system gets kind of agitated, and the byproduct is that it causes like endocrine reactions, and so the blood pressure can be one of the things that go up. And then one that we don't think about so much for blood pressure, like in this combination, is jasmine. And jasmine is fortifying, especially to the spleen, and his spleen is depleted, by the way. Yeah, his front and back spleen are depleted. The energy centers, they're depleted. And so the jasmine would be helpful for that. It's kind of relaxing, but one of the things that it does is it helps to open up the periphery, the peripheral like capillaries. Like it helps to open up like the outer like little blood vessels. And the act of doing that a lot of times will actually start to lower the blood pressure.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And so you could try either one first. I would probably go the sage version first, but I mean, if you have instincts to try the other one, I mean, follow your instincts and do it. Like those are two solid choices going down the road for him. The other thing to keep in mind is that blood pressure can go up because of fluid volume, like water retention. So, check his legs, make sure they're not like some puffiness there or anything like that, or if he's looking puffy in the face, anything like that. And if so, give him some sort of diuretic, like juniper, lovage, sandalwood, parsley, celery. I kind of like the idea, like, there's a lot of different things, but I kind of like this idea for him, because of his age, to do a little bit of celery. And the reason is that celery is a bit of a diuretic, and it helps to take some of like the inflammatory material out of the blood. It's not an anti-inflammatory, but it's like it kind of tones the blood or like purifies the blood a little bit. And so that's not going to be a quick thing for him, but like long term, that could actually be a good thing for him.
What do you think about the celery salt scrub? You have a celery scrub, don't you? Or
no, we have parsley.
Parsley. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Parsley would work as a diuretic. I mean, it is kind of cleansing to all those areas, but celery is a little bit different than some of the other ones, where it does target like that inflammatory content in the blood. Like it's, other things can do it too. Like there's the C. odorum, which is like a form of cumin. It's not the black cumin, it's a different type. It can do it as well. It can help with sleep and things like that. But the way that works, for one, it's really stinky. it's just got a strong scent. It smells like Mexican food, so it's not like a bad smell, but I mean, you do have to kind of do big dosages of it though. Like it's not something you can just put a couple drops on. He would have to take like 6, 7, even up to 9 drops internally in some water. And not a lot of people want to do that, so I usually don't throw that one out there. But I mean, it's always a potential. But I probably do that one like 1 or 2 times a week, just as like some sort of maintenance. But here you're really wanting to establish a change in his blood pressure like within a week or 2 of treatment. Like if it's not working within a week or 2, switch treatments, because he's got too much going on. Like if his blood pressure is elevating and yeah.
I thought it was strange.
Look at the kidneys, look at the adrenals. So kidneys just being fluid retention, adrenals being, stimulation of the nervous system and yeah.
I thought it was strange that he would be lightheaded and have a high blood pressure, because normally I associate that with low blood pressure. So that had me kind of, those were his 2 main.
You can still get lightheaded, and they'll start to feel pressure on the top of their head, and then sometimes they'll start to have a little bit of like pressure on the top of the head, or a little bit of a headache up there, or they'll start to have a really deep in the center of the head headache.
Mhm.
And then the upper part of the abdomen, like right below the ribs, the part of the digestive tract, they'll feel like a weird tension in that area, like it feels like wound up. All of those can be when the blood pressure goes up. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.